On July 2, 1955, a Pan American flight taxied down the runway in New York, bound for Miami. On board were a crew of 4 and 57 passengers, expecting a routine trip down the East Coast. 3 hours into the flight, under a clear sky, the plane vanished. There was no distress call to the tower, and later search parties found no debris on the ocean floor. The sky had simply swallowed it whole. 37 years passed. Then, in 1992, a radar operator at an airport in Caracas, Venezuela, picked up an unidentified signal. An archaic propeller aircraft was drifting into controlled airspace. When the pilot finally radioed in, he sounded deeply confused. He gave his flight number, Pan Am 914. The plane landed and taxied to the tarmac. Through the windows, authorities could see passengers staring out, perfectly preserved in mid-century clothing, entirely untouched by time. But before anyone could board, the panicked pilot throttled the engines, guided the plane back onto the runway, and took off, disappearing into the clouds a second time. It reads like the perfect locked room mystery, an impossible vanishing and a logic-defying reappearance, filled with exactly enough procedural detail from control towers and radar screens that your brain naturally wants to believe it. That story has spread relentlessly across the internet. It has been dissected on podcasts, animated in viral videos, and debated in forums by millions of people trying to piece together what happened. The reality is that Pan Am Flight 914 never existed. There is no Federal Aviation Administration record of that flight number on that date. If a commercial airliner carrying 57 people had actually dropped off the radar in 1955, the search efforts would have been massive. It would have dominated the front pages of national newspapers for weeks. Not a single contemporary article mentions it. The real puzzle here is how a complete fabrication bypassed our collective skepticism and wrote itself into modern history. To find out how millions were convinced of an event that left zero physical evidence, we have to trace the modern viral clips back to their source. Modern viral posts trace back to a single 1985 publication, the Weekly World News. Once in print, the story mutated. It was recycled years later, with authors changing dates and locations to make the hoax feel like a breaking event for new readers. The myth survived the slow death of print media because it relied on a counterfeit framework. By wrapping an entirely fake narrative around recognizable, trusted brands like Pan American Airways and real airports in Miami and Caracas, the tabloid gave the fiction an unearned veneer of credibility. That credibility was highly effective because it preyed on genuine public fears. In the mid-20th century, commercial aviation was still relatively new, and actual disappearances carried terrifying weight. Real aircraft did go missing during that era. Flights operated by British South American Airways, like the Star Tiger and the Star Ariel, legitimately vanished over the Atlantic Ocean. Those flights left no wreckage behind and sent no distress calls. They triggered massive naval searches and lengthy investigations, yet the final reports concluded with entirely unanswered questions. The authors of the tabloid hoax observed those very real tragedies. They took the terrifying reality of a plane dropping out of the sky and used it as a disguise for their fiction. We naturally drop our guard against the Flight 914 story because we already know that planes vanishing in the 1950s is a documented historical reality. The myth successfully hijacked the space those genuine mysteries left behind. Actual aviation disasters are messy, tragic, and often leave families with a permanent lack of closure. The legend of Flight 914, by contrast, offers a perfectly neat, contained narrative loop. It provides a strange kind of psychological comfort. We want to believe in a world where the people we have lost might one day simply walk back onto the runway, entirely unharmed and untouched by time. The real danger lies in the ease with which a cheap piece of 1980s fiction bypassed decades of fact-checking to embed itself in digital history. As algorithms relentlessly recycle and condense information, they strip away the original context. A story that once sat next to articles about bat boys and monsters now shows up in your feed isolated, narrated over stock footage, missing all the obvious markers that used to trigger our natural skepticism. In an era of infinite algorithmic recycling, the only reliable defense is demanding the primary source. This mystery persists because we stop questioning the evidence right in front of us.